Speaking of meme coins, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and its halvening. Bitcoin's not the meme coin, but what happened on the halvening, basically Bitcoin's meme coin event. So the halvening happened last week, and we've seen halvenings before. It's pretty much a non-event, except for the fact that it just happened. This one's different though, because now the chart that you are seeing on the screen, you are seeing the fees paid to Bitcoin miners. The very flat blue bars are the block subsidy. That was the 6.25 BTC that was minted per block paid to miners, which is now 3.125. And then the orange is the block fees. Since the halvening, you have seen, we'll call it like a pre-halvening. It was like a 5-to-1 ratio of block subsidies to block fees.
That's how it's been like almost for a very long time. For most of Bitcoin's history, like there hasn't been much.
Well, no, actually, the fact that those fees are actually in existence, those are all ordinals fees. For most of Bitcoin's history, there was no orange
even
bar.
Slimmer.
It's like
it's
even smaller. Yeah, so like a 6-to-1 ratio of fees to block subsidies being the 6. Now post halvening. It's pretty volatile, but with runes, the introduction of runes, block fees are just totally surpassing all historical total incentives. So like for the podcast listeners, we're seeing bar charts that are like 5 times higher than the pre-halvening security budget. And that's all coming from rune fees, transaction competition to become a transaction in the Bitcoin blockchain to mint runes.
We should explain what runes are, but before we do, I just have a comment on this. So I used to be of the camp, and I still sort of am. I used to sort of think the halving was a bit weird to celebrate. And by the way, do you notice sometimes we say halving, sometimes we say halvening, and I just can't help it. Because
there's no consensus.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I've asked so many people what it is, and they all give me different answers.
So both are acceptable. So you can say halving, you can say halving.
Both are acceptable.
Okay. So we'll use them interchangeably then to sure. Be the
really throw off the listeners.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I used to be of the camp that like it's kind of weird to celebrate. Like I get that we're celebrating algorithmic kind of
monetary
issuance,
strength of BTC,
monetary strength, but like there was, at least it used to be, especially like last halvening, no one would acknowledge that this is actually cutting your security budget, Bitcoin security budget in half as well. So it's kind of like you're celebrating this algorithmic issuance policy, but like you're also celebrating, well, the economic security of our blocks is now like half, right? And I was very worried about this and didn't think that the Bitcoin community was giving this enough attention or time, because if you cut your block subsidy, you have to make up for it in block fees in order to have the same security budget. And it's interesting, David, that is what's happening, only more so. Like, because there is now building on Bitcoin, I'm actually, if this is sustained, of course, I'm much less worried about the block subsidy like dropping down. I think a big question though is, how sustainable is this? Runes, right. Bitcoin layer 2s, will that be a sustainable source for L2 fees going forward?
Yeah, that's totally right. The main difference between the Ethereum security budget design with EIP 1559 is that Ethereum tries to ensure its sustainability internally with its own internal mechanisms, like fee capture via 1559, whereas what we're seeing here with ordinals and runes starting to become a very dominant part of the Bitcoin security budget. Those are things that are actually external to the protocol.
Well, but
those
also
are things happening in Bitcoin's
Ethereum's
app layer.
going to issue block subsidies potentially as long as it needs to. Do you know
that? Yeah,
like
right. Because it knows that it can't demand on external influences to protect itself.
Yes.
Ethereum wants to always ensure to the very end that it will have the assurances that it will be secure. Which
always seemed to me a more like conservative approach to this. But anyway, we should probably explain just a recap of what runes are, David. What are they and why are they causing this spike in Bitcoin block fees?
Runes are a new introduction to Bitcoin, the Bitcoin app layer, the Bitcoin layer 1. They are fungible tokens on Bitcoin. So we probably all know what ordinals are. They use Bitcoin block space to etch or inscribe JPEGs into Bitcoin block space, and that is an ordinal. Runes do a similar thing, but it produces fungible tokens inside of the Bitcoin layer 1. So they are native to the Bitcoin layer 1. Fungible tokens that you can trade and send, a la like ERC20 tokens on Ethereum, but with like a lot less functionality. Like there's no smart contract inside of Bitcoin for any of these tokens. They're just tokens, which is why when I did the transition into the segment, I called them meme coins, because they're kind of constrained to becoming meme coins. If you want to invoke some sort of like meaning into them, it has to come from outside the protocol, because you can't put logic into runes.
But as the creator said, meme coins, that's perfect product market fit, right? So like let 1,000 meme coins bloom. And that's really what we're seeing. This is a dashboard. By the way, this is on a centralized exchange, OKX, a dashboard of
It
runes.
is pretty cool to see Bitcoin tokens actually trading on centralized exchanges.
Yeah, I guess
that's a new thing.
there were some of the ordinals tokens maybe doing that. I wasn't paying attention to that, but now like runes tokens.
NFTs. Yeah, so Magic Eden has been like
Well,
very,
like not just that. There were BRC20s, right? In
yeah, but those are
ordinals?
ordinals. Those are ordinals.
Okay, so
BRC20s are ordinals. So the BRC20s were like trying to layer on fungible tokens on top of an ordinal,
and they didn't
kind
work
of
very well.
worked.
Didn't work. It was kludgy.
They worked enough to have speculative memery mania around them,
but not like
they're
this.
basically like an ERC 1155. But the Casey was like somebody just like brute forced fungible tokens. Casey, the creator of runes and ordinals, so he said somebody just brute forced fungibility onto an ordinal. Let's just actually make a brand new protocol. We'll call it runes.
That's what runes was. Oh, and how this relates to the halvening is he just co-released it. He just co-released it with the halvening just because why not? You got the maximum attention on Bitcoin. Anyway, these on the OKX, these are the leading coins in the runes ecosystem. One is called ZZZZZZ. Another is called
so
Satoshi.
in the naming of runes, there is no space.
Yeah.
So instead of a space, they have a little dot. It's like a bullet. That counts as the space. That's why there are bullets here.
Dog go to the moon. Of course, all separated by these spaces, as you said.
Yep. Dot.
Satoshi
There's
Nakamoto.
Z space, Z space, V space, FEEHU space dot.
Look at this like straight 5 Z's in a row, or dog go to the moon. I mean, look at these market caps, man. Like this is 45,000 Bitcoin
market cap,
in terms of market cap.
which is $3 billion.
It's about
That's
$3
$3 billion market cap for a Bitcoin rune called ZZZZZ Fehu ZZZZZ.
Wow.
And then the number 2 market cap is dog go to moon. I love Satoshi Nakamoto Inu, number 5. Solid name. $80 million.
Wanko, Rune, Anacro, Meme, Gob is
Bitcoin
Gob is Gob,
Runes X.
Honey Badger coin. All right.
So like there's no way to like actually do any fundamental analysis on these things, right? It's just like, oh, I like that name.
Oh, this is Eric Wall pissing off ETH maxis and Bitcoin maxis alike. And he is tweeting a picture of one day block space fees. And look at this. Bitcoin takes the lead with
$78 million.
$78 million and absolutely dwarfs Ethereum on the one day. Ethereum comes in second place. Nothing else is close with $3.2 million in one day fees. Look at that. The block space is valuable again.
Funnily enough, like I put out a tweet that I was retweeting this saying I don't really feel aggrieved at all by this. I think it's cool that Bitcoin is generating fees. Like this means like, hey, at least something is being productive
That's
here.
because you're not an ETH maxi, David.
That's because I'm not an ETH maxi. Oh. I will say it did make me feel a very immense appreciation for EIP 1559 because these $78 million of BTC that people are paying to mint and trade and purchase runes
miner revenue, baby,
are going straight to miners who have expenses and overhead, and eventually they all sell Bitcoins. Miners are bullish Bitcoin. They would love to hold Bitcoins. But in the fullness of time, they are forced sellers of Bitcoin because of the overhead of their operations. They either have to pay for electricity or they have to pay for new chips.
What a payday
Eventually,
for
that
miners,
Bitcoins
though.
get sold. A huge payday for miners. Whereas if this was on Ethereum, which it frequently is when there's NFT drops, 1559 burns that. And so it actually gets recycled back into the value of ETH rather than gets sold by miners and turns into like a line item in their P&L.
Yeah, well, that just makes you a greedy plutocrat, David. That's what I say.
Yep.
This is
many such cases.
Okay, so Bitcoin is now treading this territory of its block space fees are really high. This is a tweet from Hector Lopez. 82% of wallets that hold Bitcoin cannot move right now due to high fees. So if you have trace amounts of Bitcoin inside of a Bitcoin wallet, it's not worth it for you to move your Bitcoin like outside of your like self-custody because it's too expensive. But that's what happens when you have high block space fees. It's the same thing that Ethereum has been through and will continue to go through. Like moving forward.
It's even worse for Bitcoin because I think this just shows how much more small a Bitcoin block is than an Ethereum block. Like, and then data throughput per time, Ethereum just has so much more data per Bitcoin block in comparison to Bitcoin block. And so like it's just a really, when there's any marginal amount of demand for Bitcoin block space, fees just go through the roof.
I was going to ask you this though. So here's a tweet. how sustainable is this? This is from Dan Smith. Bitcoin runes are playing out exactly like the short-lived inscriptions craze we saw on Avalanche and Arbitrum. I don't know, pretty bearish on the longevity of this. In the meantime, miners stay winning, and you like put some stats about some of the largest collections. The question is this a flash in the pan or is this sustainable? If you have any takes on that, very, very hard to guess. It's certainly part of the meme coin mania this time on Bitcoin. And first time tokens have been in a like reasonable way on Bitcoin. But the question is, do you think all of this is sustainable?
There's definitely some like Bitcoin exceptionalism that tokens and ordinals, like runes and ordinals, will receive just because they're on Bitcoin. Part of the pitch of a Bitcoin ordinal is that like, well, the Bitcoin blockchain is going to be around forever. And so you can be assured that the data of your ordinal will also be around forever. And it's on like, the one blockchain with all of the Lindy. And so there's Bitcoin does have like some exceptionalism in it. You can see that in the monetary premium. And so therefore I think runes and ordinals get some overflow from that. But also at the same time, Bitcoin, the blockchain, is entering in the dangerous world of utility. And if you are trying to invoke utility into your chain, you have to keep on moving. Like you have to add more and more utility. You have to keep on evolving. And so like, what is the evolution path for further utility, further expressiveness for ordinals and runes? The one that I see that's very clear and obvious are Bitcoin layer 2s, because of what ordinals and runes are, which are like native to the Bitcoin layer 1. All of the data for a rune or an ordinal is on the Bitcoin layer 1. They are fully interoperable with Bitcoin layer 2s, which are far more expressive than the Bitcoin layer 1. And so maybe that is the path where the Bitcoin blockchain does grow and evolve in its utility. And so maybe that is the future path. Well, I mean, but at the same time, like ordinals and runes are like strictly an inferior technology to a smart contracting system.
Yeah, I think Casey called it, Stone Age, right? Is in terms of what you're dealing with. Casey, the creator of this. It's also difficult to imagine. I mean, $78 million worth of fees. That's what like people are paying for. Like, how do you sustain that?
In day number 1, which is quite literally a flash in the pan.
For sure. This is a take here. Honestly, I can't help but be disgusted by some of the behavior I see in the ordinals and runes ecosystem. There's influencers. They're grifting and stealing from you as blatantly as I've ever seen. And it'll be egregious with runes. And he goes on to explain Bitcoin block times are 10 minutes long. And he like goes on basically. I think there are many.
He basically is saying the MEV opportunities, the arbitrage and sniping opportunities in Bitcoin runes and ordinals ecosystem is massive, and people are taking advantage of that. If you enjoyed all of that, then you'll absolutely love the Bankless newsletter. Join over 300,000 fellow readers, all for free. Click below to sign up.